Did Halo Infinite deserve to be a failure? Well, thegamer.com is weighing in on this and saying that it didn't deserve what happened to it. Many people right now sort of grieving Halo Infinite in what seems to be sort of its end of life. Although 343 has sent out a very generic message about how Halo will continue, that's not really the discussion point of this video. I wanted to react to an article as many people are looking at the failings of 343 and Microsoft with respect to the Halo franchise and calling foul. Both people who are fans of the game or even people who worked on the game weighed in sort of the wake of the layoffs from Microsoft, and they used it as an opportunity to talk about all of the problems at 343 that led us to where we are right now. So I think that's getting sort of lost in the messaging. I'm curious exactly what Jade King at The Gamer has to say. I don't read these in advance, so it can be more of a raw reaction, but I'm curious what they have to say, because I do think many people are missing that. They're missing the forest for the trees. The issue is not the layoffs. The issue is that the layoffs served as a great catalyst so that former employees who are now working at other development companies are like, man, I was there. It was terrible. The contracts were awful. Having to leave was terrible. I wanted to stay and keep working on the project, or management was terrible. I think that's getting lost. These are people who are no longer at the company. They didn't get laid off or fired. They had their contract end, and they're like, yeah, that game did not deserve what it got, so let's see what the gamer has to say about this. It should have been the start of a bright future. I have to agree with that right off jump. Like, this should have been a great moment for Halo to be the centerpiece of the Xbox Series X and this generation of console, bridging the gap also with PC. This was a great opportunity for Halo, and they failed pretty poorly. Halo Infinite isn't going to get better. I stayed hopeful after its spectacular launch petered out and months passed between the first major multiplayer updates. Now, I am curious what they're referring to with spectacular launch. The multiplayer launched in a beta state with all kinds of problems. The campaign did receive praise, but that was about it. If you go to the Halo Infinite Metacritic, I don't think it's a great representation of the product, because the Metacritic is only based on the campaign, which was the only portion of the game that actually could cost you money if you didn't have Xbox Game Pass. But the multiplayer did not have a spectacular launch, so I'm curious what they're referring to. I think some people are developing a weird rose-colored glasses look at something that happened not even a full year and a half ago, and they're already talking about the game as if, yeah, it launched and it was doing so well. No, not really. Then new trademarks hinted at a major campaign expansion and ambitious future for the live service shooter, but now rumors suggest that amidst layoffs, the single-player strategy has been considerably scaled back, with Microsoft potentially trusting external partners with the property moving forward. Now, there's a lot of confusion about this, because both Jason Schreier and others are weighing in and saying there wasn't anything in production for campaign or DLCs. That's a misunderstanding of the claims that we covered in a previous video. The claims were they were putting together a small team and planning on campaign and DLC, and that team was scrapped, and now Joseph Staten's no longer there. I don't think that's an unreasonable thing to even state or believe. I think we already knew that. We already knew that happened first and foremost. We covered that in a previous video. When Bonnie Ross left, there were reports that came out that they were trying to bridge the gap and to make a Destiny-style game where you kept coming back and investing in your Spartan and your character, and there was a single-player focus for that. That was scrapped around the time that she left, because they were focusing primarily on the multiplayer, and then the recent, layoff situation caused lots of people to speak out, and it caused other people to say, hey, here's what's been happening. And I think the misunderstanding was people thought the layoffs were the cause of Joseph Staten leaving and the scrapping of the DLC and the campaign plans. Those two are not necessarily connected. It was that this is a great opportunity to do an autopsy on Halo Infinite and talk about what has been happening with the contracts, what has been happening with management, and with the management shakeup and the leadership changes, significant plans were scrapped. And I think that is true and trustworthy. That's what I think is getting lost. I think people thought the narrative was, oh, the layoffs are why Staten's gone and why the campaign stuff is scrapped. No, that stuff was scrapped when they came in and restructured leadership with Pierre, got rid of Bonnie, and I think at that time they were also planning Joseph Staten's exit. Or he was planning his exit. He was like, I don't want to do this anymore. You brought me in to get this thing out the door, and if you're going to scrap my campaign plans. He all but said there was going to be ongoing story that you would play in your Spartan. There's a trailer where he says you're going to go out on these missions as your Spartan. He gave that away in trailers and interviews before the game even launched, that their plan was for you to be doing things as your Spartan and not just going out and doing new DLCs and expansions as Master Chief, which I think was the goal. You were going to be investing in your Spartan, and that was going to be your character in the Halo universe or in the Halo Infinite game world. None of this is confirmed, obviously, but with the departure of high-profile figures like Joseph Staten and Bonnie Ross, the future of Halo Infinite in its current form is far from ideal. Keep in mind that not many people are even playing the game right now, with only a dedicated audience still sticking around to master Forge mode and wait for the next seasonal chapter. It's far from the mainstream success 343 Industries was hoping for, and that really sucks. It does suck. It really does. I feel bad for anybody who worked on the title because I think they wanted to make a good game, and I think you had poor leadership, bad direction, and a horrible contract policy from Microsoft that set this game up to fall on its face. Who knows what the future holds for Halo Infinite, but with internal reports claiming it failed to achieve its expectations, I can't see Microsoft wanting to turn it into a platform that goes beyond what we already have. Ironic, I suppose, given its namesake and how its Slipstream engine was designed to introduce Halo to a new generation of players. At first, it did exactly that, but a lackluster pace and failure to capitalize on its popularity meant gamers moved on, keen to play the next big thing when Infinite wasn't offering nearly enough to placate them. This is a complete misdiagnosis of what happened. I do not agree with the author of this article. Listen, they did not have a lackluster pace that hurt it. It didn't have a good launch. It just didn't capture the PC audience. Mouse and keyboard felt terrible to anybody that played it. You could look at the Steam charts to see this. It was not a lack of pacing that drove everybody away. Now, that was an aspect of people's disappointment, and the reason they weren't playing was because the Battle Pass took forever. They had to almost immediately respond to the feedback since they ignored everybody that said a challenge-based Battle Pass is a terrible idea. No, they didn't listen to us. They learned that in Titanfall 1 with needing to prestige in that way, and they just, I guess, thought they were really going to take another crack at it, and they had to implement something that was at least going to give you XP for your first 7 games or whatever, and even that, the math was pretty poor. It made more sense to basically play 20 games across 5 days instead of playing all your games on a Saturday. So if your schedule didn't allow you to play every night and you had to put all your gamer hours in on a Saturday, you would get significantly less XP than somebody who played 4 or 5 games a night. Everything was built around getting you to log back in each day. This game had a terrible, abysmal launch. It didn't get off the ground, and what pushed it all the way over into the mud was the fact that they had a terrible content rhythm and plan, and the Battle Pass was built by somebody who apparently doesn't ever play video games or has never touched the ones that are successful with Battle Passes. So I'm noticing this in the narrative from people that think like, oh, they really failed Halo Infinite. It started out so strong and then they just couldn't keep it going. No, it didn't start out strong at all. It wasn't well received in virtually any of the venues where it landed, and it quickly fell in both popularity and player base numbers. The campaign ends with Master Chief and his small yet endearing group of friends leaving Zeta Halo behind, embarking on a new adventure to save whatever parts of humanity they can, all while a mysterious new enemy bubbles away in the background. It reset the status quo, meaning hardcore fans could appreciate its newfound dedication to world building and lore, while newcomers wouldn't be lost amidst the noise. This is a great setup for the ongoing live service style game that many of us speculated that they were creating. So I think it is disappointing. I won't deny that the campaign was good and that the world of Halo had potential to be something more than what this turned out to be. And if you're primarily only thinking about the campaign, I guess you could say it was a pretty good launch, but that wasn't enough to really carry the game. It was a fresh start, and one where the foundation could have reached for the stars. Sadly, development was mismanaged from the start after multiple delays and a reliance on temporary contractors, so once it was out the door, there really wasn't anything to build on. Only to survive, and it seems even that was a struggle. Maybe I got my hopes up, since it appears those who have since left the studio wanted the exact same thing, to craft a chapter in this universe they adore. So here's one of the people who weighed in the wake of everything that happened. As a Halo fan, I'm really tired of Microsoft business practices and policies slowly killing the thing I love. Between the contracting policies they abuse for tax incentives and layoffs, in the face of gigantic profits and executive bonuses, they set Halo up for failure. Now, it's my understanding that this individual was former at 343. Yeah, right here. He's a build engineer for Apex Legends, and he was previously at Halo. So this is another person that worked on the project. Now, some people misunderstood this. They thought, oh, all these people speaking out are speaking out because they got fired or removed from the company. Nah, he's been gone for a while. He's at another company, and he's like, dude, I was there. We wanted the game to be great, and it was set up to fail. You know, it shouldn't have been. This should have been Halo's time. Halo is one of those few household names in video games, penetrating the echo chamber with music, an instantly recognizable protagonist, and a standout aesthetic that can sit alongside Mario and Zelda. Well, settle down there, okay? And you're forgetting Pikachu. I do agree with this, though. Yeah, Master Chief's iconic, and he is recognizable, and it is good to have that. It's good to have a central figure for your platform, or multiple really, really strong figures for your platform. Nintendo obviously has Mario and Zelda, and now obviously they're really glad to have the Pokemon, ownership. But Master Chief was Xbox's character. He was their icon. He was their guy. PlayStation has a variety of characters they like to trot out there. From now we've got Aloy, you've got Kratos, you've got Ratchet and Clank, you've got Uncharted, Nathan Drake. I mean, there's a lot of different characters for their platform, which I think that helps. But when you have that one central figure, I think that also is really good. Bungie intended for his story to end with Halo 3, yet the series' popularity was so pronounced that Microsoft was always going to bring him back, even if the coming stories at times failed to justify their existence in ways that even now remain unfulfilled. I was there for the entire ride, and might be one of the few in the world ready to defend Halo 5 Guardians. So we have a real true fan here. I mean, if you're going to defend Halo 5, then you really are a diehard fan. Now I'm tapping out. Finally able to look past all the hype and nostalgia to see that even if the iconic musical sting and memorable characters continue to give me goosebumps, it can never escape from the corporate landscape in which Halo exists. Infinite was built as a live service platform without the resources nor foresight to ever achieve its original vision. Now, in walks all the people that are going to say, this is why live service is bad. Halo died because of live service. If you attempt to do an autopsy on the death of Halo Infinite, because I'm arguing that this thing's dead in the water, if that's your aim, if you're going to try to do that and you want to blame it on live service, I would call that malpractice. Like, you're not good at analyzing what actually happened. And I don't mean to be disrespectful or condescending, but I don't think you're even remotely looking at the scope of what made Halo Infinite bad and why it struggled. It didn't struggle because it attempted to be live service. How else is an arena shooter supposed to last? It has to be a live service game. You're not going to be able to launch this game and just let it sit and do nothing to it. It needs to be maintained, updated, modes added, maps added, and you don't do that with only selling the game one time. You need an ongoing monetization plan and a way to subsidize that development. So anybody who blames Halo Infinite's death on, oh, yep, see, because they tried to be live service, there was no other future for Halo outside of live service, and that's not why it was bad. They couldn't even get a good battle pass out the door. Like, how hard is that? In the words of those who worked on it, if Microsoft and 343 Industries set it up to fail. I'm really glad that people are including Microsoft in this. Like, obviously 343 Industries had bad leadership and bad management, and that needs to be assessed and figured out, which it seems like they did with Bonnie Ross out and Pierre in charge. Pierre is the guy who kind of led the charge to fix Master Chief Collection, so that's kind of why I'm assuming they put him here. It's like, this guy's going to get things done. He knows how to fix things, which unfortunately sounds like he's there a little too late. But I am glad they're including Microsoft. I continue to say that Microsoft needs to completely reassess their contract policy. I don't think it works for developers. I'm worried for any developer under their ownership, because any reliance on contractors is going to be ineffective due to the fact that they can't work beyond 18 months because they don't want to pay them benefits. And everybody always says, oh, tons of other people use contractors. Yep, and no one in the industry has a standard where you have to leave after 18 months, so nobody gets to stay. That is a terrible policy. It is acidic to the creative process. Any development company under Microsoft's ownership is under threat of this horrendously stupid policy, and until Microsoft fixes it, I have severe doubts about the quality of work we're going to get out of any studio owned by Microsoft. Starfield and Redfall, thank goodness, most of those games were developed prior to Microsoft ownership. A lack of resources, a fractured production style, unclear post-launch plans, and constant fumbling of a project that should have been a slam dunk. This is Halo. Yeah, this is the legacy of a Microsoft-owned developer and a Microsoft-owned property. This isn't some company that Microsoft scooped up mid-development, okay? They've had 343 for a while. They've had the Halo property since its inception. There's no excuse. There just isn't. It's yours. This is your legacy, Microsoft. Do it right, and the game will sell itself, and it almost did. The gunplay was amazing, the multiplayer was satisfying, and the solo campaign was emotionally resonant in all the right ways. Now, as far as gunplay being amazing and the multiplayer being satisfying, after they worked out a lot of some of the problems, I'll admit they had a good core. They really did. The Slip Space engine, I think, has its own problems. Every engine does, but it felt good to play. There was hit registration issues, and there was lag, and there was problems, but when you weren't experiencing the problems, I felt like there was something pretty good there. Yet here we are, less than 2 years later, staring at the decaying corpse of a blockbuster that could have had the world. That just ends on such a somber note, but it's true. It is true. They could have really turned Halo around, because now, while I still think they could at some point in the future release a successful Halo, I think everybody's going to look at it with sort of this skeptical eye of, I don't know, they already tried this once. Are they really going to try it again? Some people think that Halo's too big to fail, too recognizable, it's too much of an iconic game. I think Halo Infinite is proof that axiom is false. Halo can fail, and it has. And primarily, I believe Microsoft is to blame. So, feel free to disagree, leave comments below. Check out my live streams here on Reforge Gaming, so that way I can see you in the next video.